On this episode of Cheesing It Up, we are making 5-cheese mac and cheese. We're going to start off by boiling 12 ounces of your favorite pasta. Here we're using mini shells, but you can use any type of pasta you like. For our first ingredient, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of salted butter to the pasta. We're going to mix it all together and make sure the butter has thoroughly melted before adding our next ingredient. If you'd like to cut some calories and reduce overall fat, you can exclude butter from this recipe. It just takes a little bit away from the overall richness of the flavor. Now that our butter has melted, we're going to go ahead and add our very first cheese ingredient, which is approximately 5 ounces of Cooper Sharp cheese. We love Cooper Sharp cheese because it carries a lot of similar properties to American cheese, except it packs quite a bit more flavor with the extra sharpness. You can also substitute a traditional American cheese in this recipe. In fact, one of our learnings over the years of making mac and cheese is you can substitute almost any type of cheese in these recipes that you may like the best. The only cheeses that I would suggest that you avoid are more of your fresh cheeses, so fresh mozzarella, paneer, and feta. Those types of cheeses tend to not melt very well, so I'd avoid them for mac and cheese recipes. Now we're going to add 2 cups of milk. Now, to be quite honest, we are adding more milk than what is needed in this recipe. However, one of the things we've found is that when we bake mac and cheese, like in this recipe, it tends to dry out a little bit in the oven. So we're adding a little bit extra milk just to make sure that it stays moist. If you're eating this recipe right out of the pot, you can reduce the overall amount of milk that you're putting in to about a cup to cup and a quarter. Over the last 5 minutes, we melted all of our Cooper Sharp cheese and mixed it together with the milk. We're now going to go ahead and start adding the rest of our cheese ingredients. So here we have 8 ounces of cheddar cheese, we have 6 ounces of Havarti cheese, then we also have 4 ounces of Gouda cheese. The one constant of all of our mac and cheese recipes over the years is we always add cheddar cheese because we like the sharpness and the flavor that it brings out in the mac and cheese. But truthfully, you can use many different types of combinations of cheese. Very simple one is just American cheese and cheddar cheese, and you'll probably be pretty happy with how that mac and cheese turns out. You can also use cream cheese as a substitute. Most importantly, you just need to make sure that you have a creamy cheese as your base, and you can add other types of cheeses that may be your favorite. So we keep mixing our mac and cheese together, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit more cheese to this as well. The trick is you want to melt a little bit of cheese, add a little bit more in over time. Now that all these cheeses are pretty well melted together, we're going to add our last cheese ingredient. So this is a freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Again, like cheddar, it definitely brings out a little bit more complex flavor to the mac and cheese. This is roughly about 2 ounces. We're going to go ahead and we're going to mix this all together. We are almost done here. We're just going to have one additional step after the rest of this cheese melts together. We're adding all the mac and cheese into a baking dish. It's a little bit looser right now, but as I mentioned earlier, we added extra milk just to account for some of the lost moisture when we go to bake this recipe. Our last step before baking is to add the crust. This crust consists of half a cup of panko breadcrumbs, half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I preheated the oven to 400 degrees, and we're going to put this in the oven for roughly about 10 to 15 minutes. We just want to make sure that we get a nice brown top. 10 to 15 minutes later, we have a delicious mac and cheese. I cannot wait to dig into this.